Alright, so I thought I'd make this video to try to explain these subnet problems. We're going to look at this first one, and we're going to look at 172.28.224.144 with a /23. And I'm going to explain this using my chart that I showed you guys in class. This is the way I do it. I really don't know any other way to kind of explain it to you, so I hope this helps. But I start off with, in my chart, this is the first thing I always write down when I take my test, even really before I start the test, as soon as they, kind of give me the sheet of paper, and I write this down from memory. But a /23 is where we're playing the game. Now that tells me two things in my chart. It tells me my networks go up by 2s, and they go up by 2s in the third octet. So that's where I'm playing the game, in the third octet, and going up by 2s. Well, when I look at my network, I'm going to start at 0, 0 because I'm playing the game in the third octet. It's a class B network. 172 is a class B, so that means you can't touch the first 2 octets. I got to play the game in the last 2 octets. But the place that I'm playing the game at, in this particular case, is the third octet. And the networks go up by 2s. Everything else, just stays the same. None of that changes. Like I can't touch those. I'm bringing home a class C. Bringing home a class B, and I can't touch the first 2 octets. And likewise, everything else then on the other side has to be a 0. Because of the way the subnet mask member works, everything on the one side, matches with the 1s, and everything else is a 0. All right, well, the problem here is I'm going up by 2s, but I have to get all the way up to 228. Well, 228, if we were to keep going, eventually, we would get to 200, and then, 202, 204, and then eventually we would get to, 220, 222, 224, 226, and eventually we would get to 228. So that is, kind of a big key, but I don't really stop right there because I want to go to the next one, because I'm looking for where does this fall, where does it fall in between? And if I go up by 2, the next one is 200, the next one is 230. So, okay, that makes sense because I'm looking for 228, 144. 230 is too big, and if we were to go, back here, of course, 226 is going to be too small. So this is the network that I'm looking for, because that's where 172, 16, 228, 144 would fall on. Now, the other reason why I want to go one more is I have to find the range. So this is the network. The next thing I got to do is find the broadcast address. The broadcast address is always 1 less than the next network. So if I take the next network and I subtract 1. Well, when you subtract 1, you always got to do it from the far right-hand side, just like in regular math. All right, this is network math, but it's very similar to regular math. You always subtract from the far right. Well, you can't take 0 minus 1. So what do we do in regular math? Well, we go to the next number and we borrow. Well, that's exactly what you're going to do here, but the borrowing is a little bit different. 230, I'm still going to borrow a 1 like we normally do in math, but in network math, you don't borrow 10s like we do in regular math. You borrow 256s, because 256 is the magic number. 256 minus 1 is going to give me 255. That is the broadcast address of the network, that we're looking for, the range that we're looking for. But if you look down here, we don't have that match because they're giving you the ranges of the first usable and the last usable. Well, you can't figure those out unless you know the network and the broadcast address, because the first usable is always one more than the network, 0 plus 1. And the last usable is always the broadcast address minus 1. So 255 minus 1. Again, always from the right-hand side. You add on the right-hand side, and you subtract on the right-hand side, just like in regular math. So that range is what we're looking for in the answers. And that's why this answer pairs with this answer up here. All right, so let's look at another example. Let's look at this one down here. All right, /29. So I find out /29 in my chart. That tells me that my networks are going to go up by 8. And this time I'm going to play the game. They're going to go up by 8, but they're going to go up by 8 in the 4th octet. So that's where I play the game. Now what that means is, just like in the last one, we didn't touch the first two, because we were playing in the 3rd octet. I'm playing in the 4th octet, so this time I don't touch the first 3, at least, when I start. So 172, 28, 228. So this time, I don't touch the first 3 octets. And my networks are going to go up by 8, and they're going to go up by 8 in the 4th octet. So just kind of filling these in here to give us an idea. All right, so 4th octet. First one is 0. That's where we always start. 8, 16, 24, 32, and I'm going to keep going up by 8s. Now, again, we have to get up to 144 because that's what's in the 4th octet. So again, you just, I don't know, however good you are at math, you got to keep looking for multiples of 8. So I always kind of go, okay, well, 10 times 8, that's easy. And then, 88, 96, and then 104. I try to get as close as I can. And if you got to write a couple down, you got to write a couple down. But again, depends how good you are at multiplying. Well, that's where I'm going to stop because I got 144. And I got 144, but I went one more because I had to figure out the broadcast address. And the broadcast address is always the next network minus 1. Well, in this case, life is easy because 152, minus 1, that's easy. That's 151. So that is what I'm looking for. That's the network. That's the broadcast address. Well, again, where does that fit in here? Well, they want, again, the first usable and the last usable. So what's the first usable? Take the network, 144, add 1. What's the last usable? Take the broadcast, minus 1. So add, minus. And that, in our sheet over here, we were doing this one here. That matches this one right here. 145 is the first usable. 150 is the last usable. All right, last example. Let's do this one. Figure out where that one goes. So we come down here, /18, find /18 in the chart. So my networks are going to go up by 64s, and they're going to go up by 64s. In the third octet. If I can get this arrow to move over there. So I'm playing the game in the third octet again. Networks go up by 64s. So again, I go back to this because I'm playing in the third octet. So I don't touch the first or the second octet. I play in the third octet. I make anything else 0. And in this particular case, my networks are going to go up by 64. And they're going to go up by 64 in the third octet. So the first one is 0. We always start at 0. The next one is 64. Then 128. Then 192. And then 192 and 64 is 256. Ooh, magic number. So technically, remember, I can't have 256. So that would mean technically I'd have to put a 0 and, carry a 1. Mess that up there. And technically that's the next network. But for this problem, I'm going to cheat a little bit. And I'm going to keep that 256 there, and hopefully you'll see why in a minute. I'm looking for 228 in the third octet. Well, that's too small. 228, well, that's bigger than 192, and it's less than 256. That's why I kind of kept it there. So that tells me that the network that I'm looking for is this network. Because that's 228 would fall in, it's greater than 192, it's less than 256. So I do the same thing. Go to the next network. Minus a 1 to find the broadcast address. Can't take 0 minus 1. So I got to borrow. Well, when you borrow from 256, you get 255. And anytime you borrow, it's a 256. So now I can do my math. 256 minus 1 is 255. and that is the network and the broadcast address. But again, remember, we want first usable, last usable. So add a 0 or add a 1, to the 0, because again, always from the far right. That's the way we always do, adding and subtracting. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Then subtract 1 from 255, because that 255 is the broadcast address, so the last usable would be 254. That's what I'm looking for. And that matches this one. So I hope that helps. That's the way I do it, using my chart. I had this chart memorized. I memorized it the first time before I went in for my exam. And it's what I've always used. If this makes no sense to you, as I said, there's lots of other places on YouTube, but I can, only kind of explain it the way, that I do it. So good luck. Let me know how things work out, and I will talk to you later, hopefully, or hear from you later.